Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I've got Logan with me. Logan, how you doing this week?
Doing good, Jeremy. Doing good. How about you?
Absolutely melting here. It's scorching. We do have some rain today, uh, but now it's just hot and rainy. Other than that, it's been a good week. Before we get into what we've all been playing, I'm going to mention this and get it out of the way because I'm really annoyed. So, some people might know that this year I've tried to get back into wrestling. And, because it all came to Netflix this year, and there's this event called Saturday Night Main Event, and there's one basically every 2 months, and it's on YouTube in the UK. I think it's on some TV channel in the US. Um, However, this particular event has ads throughout the whole thing. Now, I've complained about this before, and I'm going to complain about it again because it's absolutely atrocious. So it was Bill Goldberg's retirement match, and it was a 14-minute match, and I'm not even kidding, it had 3 ad breaks. There was more ads than match, and I'm going to complain about this until they change something because it's so annoying. I think ads are destroying the viewing experience. It's so annoying, but yeah, just want to get that off my chest because I know ads in the US, especially for like live television and sports, can be like really bad. My God, I don't know how you put up with it. Like, isn't like you watch basketball? Doesn't that have like the same issue?
Oh, it's horrible. Like, basically, there's like certain amount of timeouts that are like cooked baked in to a game, to where it'll be like, okay, once they get under 6 minutes and a quarter or a half or whatever, there'll be an automatic triggered timeout for media, and then it'll go to break and there'll be commercials or whatever. But then now that there's things like where you can challenge a play or you call a timeout or do other things, like sometimes they stay on location and keep talking about the game until it wraps up and then they go back to the game. But a bunch of the time they go to commercials and it ends up being this long break again. And it's like, are you serious? In like football, it's especially American football. It's
Yep.
especially awful. It is so bad. Like they made all these rules to try to shorten the game, like with first down limits and like clock stoppages and all this stuff. But instead, they have found more ways to add longer commercials in instead of longer game. But so it ends up being a long event either way. It's just less fun part and more ad part. And it's super annoying, and like it's even gotten bad at the theater, like for films. Like I think it was Boston, somewhere in Massachusetts, there was a lawmaker who wanted to introduce a bill or something, basically to where theaters were required to upfront tell you how long previews were going to be and when the movie would actually bloody start, so you'd know when to show up or not. And I think that's a great idea because it is an epidemic.
Yeah, it's terrible, man. But yeah, I was so annoyed. Looking forward to watching a weekend of wrestling, and one of the events, most of its ads, absolutely disgraceful. 2 hour event, most of its ads. But yeah, that's this weekly's. Me complaining about ad section. Now it's been a long week. What have you been playing?
Well, I've been playing several different things. I've been playing the Space Marine remaster,
Oh yeah,
and because I had missed out on the 360 version, and I held hope that they would remaster it. Lo and behold, they shadow drop it, and it's in Game Pass. So I've been playing that. It's it's really good, and I enjoy it. But man, like
the difficulty
it makes
spikes.
the upgrade to 2 like nuts.
Yeah,
It is wild. Like, you know how we talked about how 2 feels like a 360 game? Well, it feels like a 360 game, but looks like a next
yeah.
gen game. Like, this feels like and looks like a 360 game. And hey, all I wanted was to be able to play it, and I can. It's a lot of fun. Been playing that. Um, Power Wash Sim, of course, and I started this new game, new to me, called Monster Train
Oh
or
yeah.
whatever. It's like a roguelike deck builder. A friend of mine had recommended it, and it was on Game Pass. So I was like, all right, why not? And basically, you're on this fire train, and you have like 3 or 4 decks levels of your train. You're going on this track, and these enemies, attack the train, and you have to fend them off for waves and fight bosses and stuff. And it's pretty fun so far. So those are the main things I've been playing. How about you?
Oh, a bunch of stuff. I've been playing shocker to no one, Final Fantasy 16. Uh, it
Hashtag sponsored.
Yeah, hashtag sponsored. I mean, look, I praise this game a lot because other than it being good, I haven't really played like a high. I'm going to try and word this very carefully. I haven't played a high quality, action based JRPG since Final Fantasy 15 in 2016. So it's been a while. We don't get many like this, and like it oozes like just style, and it's a big budget game, like fancy cutscenes. The boss battles are chef's kiss in this. Um, I'm gonna post a boss battle on Twitter tomorrow that literally melted my actual brain. It's possibly one of the best moments in gaming I've ever experienced. I won't say what it is, but my God, this game, I keep calling it peak, and other people have replied to me saying, "Oh, it gets better and better," and it just does. I know it's a bit ironic that I complain about Square Enix nonstop for multiples of years. They give me a free review copy of said game, and all of a sudden I'm glazing it. But I'm glazing it for a bloody good reason. It's outstanding. I can't really pick anything bad about it. It's just good. Some people say the fetch quests is annoying, but like to me, if you have side quests that you can finish in under 60 seconds, it's not really worth complaining about. Maybe that's the British in me, where we just refuse to complain about a lot of things. It might be that, but honestly, it's just a fun game. The combat's great. The only downside of the combat is that it's so satisfying. Basically, you select which moves you want to use, and you buy them with ability points. So, like, you can go throughout the entire game and not basically use all powers or moves. Well, you get kind of locked into a way you like playing, meaning you won't actually experiment with like new play styles more. And I completely get that because I'm kind of locked into the same 5 moves. So if people see my clips on Twitter, you'll notice I'm using the same moves just because I like using them that way. But I'm going to try and change that up soon. But yeah, I'm over 50 hours into the game. Apparently, I'm like just over halfway. I can't really get enough of this. It's brilliant. The story's phenomenal. It's nice having a main character that isn't a whiny, try not to swear. Just like someone that isn't an idiot, right?
Quit. Yeah.
Yeah. Like honestly, I'm kind of fed up with like in some JRPGs you have absolute whiny main characters, and in this it's like he's kind of stoic, which I like. And I hope when we ever see Final Fantasy 17 at some point down the line, they really have to look at 16 and think we need to do more of this, because it's just so good. And as someone that used to be a huge fan of Final Fantasy in its turn-based form, and like for years now, I've been thinking, it needs to go back to turn-based combat. Honestly, and I'll say this as someone that loves Expedition 33's combat, I'd be completely fine if they stick to action-based combat going forward. Maybe mix it up, go back and forth, but the combat is just so satisfying, and people always meme saying it's like Devil May Cry. I'll get hate for this. I think it's better than Devil May Cry's combat. I'm sure I'll get shamed for that, but it's just good. It's really good. But that's been incredible. I finally finished Avowed. That game came out in February, and before it came out, Microsoft kept on saying it's a 30-hour RPG, which to me sounded perfect because I'm looking for shorter games. I tend to play a lot of open world RPGs that are like 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 hours. I put like a 200 hours into The Witcher 3, right? So, like, I was looking forward to a shorter RPG, and given it being Obsidian, I was ready for a 30-hour RPG. The problem is, and this is all on me, I like to do everything. So, in the game, I did every single every single side mission. I did every single bounty. I got every single there's these things you collect that act as perks. I forgot what you call them. These little items that scattered throughout each region, and I did everything. I literally did 100% of the game, and I had so much fun with it. The combat is the ace in the hole for that game. You know, for me, while the game turned out to be about 67 hours long, I do wish it was shorter, but that was on me because I'm a completionist. I need to do every side quest. So if I didn't do every side quest and all the optional stuff, it probably would have been around 30 hours long. But I really enjoyed it. Really good story. Even better combat. I like the fact that they had so many quality of life features that I hope we see in more RPGs. Fortunately, we do have some RPGs that have these elements. But if for a fantasy-based RPG and you have combat that good, I really hope that Obsidian going forward, they continue to make Avowed games. I would love an Avowed 2, Avowed 3, have a whole trilogy. Hell, anything fantasy-based from them, I think will be really interesting. The game's going to continue to get support throughout the year. A new update dropped today. Later in the year, it's going to get New Game Plus and a photo mode. I wish Microsoft would actually launch their games with photo modes. It seems like a massively missed opportunity. It's free marketing at the end of the day.
It's a big blunder.
Yeah.
They've been doing that for ages. Just a photo mode. I'm not a dev, but it doesn't seem that hard.
Yeah. I mean, games technically use virtual cameras anyway. That's how we see them. So it's like, it can't be that difficult to put a camera mode in. Even if it's simple, you know, don't need any fancy photography features, just let me point and shoot. Let me remove the UI and place the camera. That's all I want, right? I don't need all fancy. I can just do that stuff on my phone with, you know, the simple editing tools iOS has. But outside of that, I can't really pick fault with it. You know, it was a fun game. I liked the fact that each region was different. I think the final region, the garden, was really interesting because it was basically a interconnected maze with lots of traps and puzzles, very light puzzles, and I just really enjoyed it. Obsidian, to me, they've never made a bad game. I hope that if they do a sequel at some point, maybe, you know, I don't know, change up the biomes a lot, because in this main game, you have a jungly area, and then you have another jungly area that's part swamp. Then you have I can't even remember what the third region in that game was. Oh yeah, the desert area. And after that, there was another desert area. So like, I would like them to mix up
Mordor at home.
Yeah, Mordor at home. Basically, I would like them to mix up the biomes. Maybe have a snow area, tropical area. I don't care. Just mix it up a bit. But yeah, Avowed, really fun RPG. Highly recommend it. And what can I say? That is a game that has a New Game Plus coming. I will replay it again. The main downside of the game, and this has been a problem with some Obsidian titles, and it's something they can fix, broken achievements. You know, I did every single bounty in the game, and the achievement didn't pop. Went online, there's a whole Reddit page about it. A lot of people had this issue. You know, I collect every single totem piece in the game. I didn't get the achievement. And just stuff like that, you know. Some achievements did pop. Now, I have seen some people post that if you finish the entire game, depending on what your choices are, you can actually finish the game with less than 200 gamer score. Because a lot of the achievements are actually tied to individual choices. So, depending on your playthrough, you could probably play through the game and get almost everything first try without realizing it, right? But if you choose the wrong choices, in this instance, it's actually like the better choices in the game, you could play through most of the game without getting any achievements. So unless you look up that list beforehand, which I highly recommend, yeah. So like, I think I'm at like 300 or 400 achievement score, even though I did everything in the game. But other than that, fun game. What can I say? Logan, you did finish Avowed, right?
Yeah, I loved it. I really enjoy Obsidian. They're one of my favorite developers out there. I say, bar none, they're like the best quality producing like per capita like studio out there. Like they crank out projects like not all of them are humongous in scale, but overall the writing, the characters, the lore, everything and the experiences are like chef's kiss. Like I've been an Obsidian fan since Sith Lords and they have yet to do me wrong. I love their games. I love all the references and Easter eggs to their other games in Avowed, especially with the achievement titles or paintings if you know where to look. And I really wish they had just given an expansion. With the lead writer though leaving, it makes me wonder if that'll happen or not. But I wish it would get an expansion.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. But with a universe as rich as that, I hope it happens. We did get the year one roadmap. I mean, who knows? Maybe when we get the patches later in the year, maybe they'll announce something then, or they'll just maybe put all efforts into a sequel. But considering it is Obsidian, they can make a weird amount of games at the same time. Making Avowed, Grounded 2, and The Outer Worlds at the same time. I honestly don't know how they do it. We have some developers struggling to get sequels out to games the same generation. Yet Obsidian, yeah, no problem. Like I know you do.
Some studios don't even get a single game out.
Yeah, yeah, basically. But Obsidian, I'm sure they'll surprise us again in the future. But that's basically what I've been playing. And oh yeah, I've played Warzone and Call of Duty, but I'm sure no one's interested in that. Now, oh, I'll get this little rant out of the way right now because this really annoyed me. So, and this is partly my fault. So I will take zero responsibility for my own actions. Ever since Xbox introduced backwards compatibility in 2015, I kind of took that as an opportunity to buy and play a bunch of games I missed. During the Call of Duty days, I call it the Call of Duty days because that's when COD was big for me, 2009 to 2011. I missed out on a bunch of stuff. I missed out on a bunch of single player games because I was obsessed with playing Call of Duty every night. And, I took that time when backwards compatibility was introduced to buy games I missed, play them, like Binary Domain and all that stuff. And especially now, I'm trying to buy these games as new as possible because, better condition, all that stuff. Well, anyway, in the UK, considering, especially where I live, we don't have any video game stores. Haven't for a while because, physical media basically died in the UK 10 years ago. We have this store called CEX in the UK, and they basically sell used phones, tablets, DVDs, Blu-rays, video games. They have a tiny video game section. And they have a 360 part as well. So I've taken, I've put my pride to the side, whatever you want to call it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to start buying used 360 games to complete my collection. So the past few times I've been into Durham, I've went to CEX, and I'll have a look, and I found some really cool games that I've been wanting for years, and that's pretty cool. However, I have a problem with this store, and I have a problem with human beings in general. I have games that are in disc format, and I've had these for decades, right? I have OG Xbox games on the shelf right now that I've had since 2001, and they are in pristine condition. Not just the disc, but the case, the cover, the plastic it's in, everything about it, pristine. Every game I have going on from the Xbox onwards, my PlayStation 2 games, my Xbox 360 games, my PS3 games, everything is pristine clean. No marks, no scratches, no tea stains on the cover. And I go to CEX, and these games are an absolute disgrace, right? So one, the discs are pretty much scratched almost all the time. The cases have marks on them. Sometimes there's chunks of plastic out of the case. The plastic that the clear plastic that goes over the plastic case, sometimes ripped up. Stickers all over the place. I hate that, by the way. And yeah, by the way, who puts a sticker on the game art itself? Who? Who
It's
does
psycho behavior.
Right, it's stupid. You can't peel that off because it rips the bloody cover. Like everything about these cases, to me, maybe maybe because I'm a bit of a germaphobe, but honestly, horrendous. I don't know who treats their games this way. And like literally, you will buy a game, and there will be a coffee stain or a tea stain off a cup on the cover. Who does that? Now, I know some people, they will take a disc out of a console and just put it on the side next to the TV. No, not on my watch. Stop doing that stuff because it's gross. You scratch your discs, your cases are all messed up, and I don't know who sits there and thinks, oh, you know what? I've just spent my hard-earned money on this video game. I'm going to treat it like a pile of crap. I'm sick of this, and, you know, I've caved in. I know I have to buy used games now because, believe me, trying to buy new 360 games in 2025 isn't just difficult, but bloody expensive. You know, fortunately, I got my Transformers Cybertron games, I think for £32 each. I got Warhammer 40k Space Marine for, I think that was £12. Just stuff like that, you know. But the prices of some of these games, brand new, it's just gone up. I tried to buy a copy of 50 Cent Blood in the Sand, right? 50 Cent Blood in the Sand is possibly the most sought after Xbox 360 game. I was I was told I could get this game for £380. You can buy a console for that, right? So like I'm taking this time to you know, lose my marbles because I'm literally angry. My blood could boil, and maybe it's just the heat. But oh my god, the state of used games in the UK is absolutely crazy. And the fact that CEX have the audacity to leave the stickers all over the place and they put them on there, it's disgusting. Logan, I know the state of used games is probably different in the US because you actually have video game stores. Like, what's the state of used games, especially for 7th generation games?
Well, to be honest, it depends on the store, and it's not just the store, but it depends on what part of town you're in, honestly. Um, because like certain places you go or certain stores, like it seems to be in more affluent areas or some of the stuff, it seems like the things are in general treated a little bit better and look better. But I mean, I've seen some pretty trashy, nasty stuff in those too, frankly, and seen some true gems in some of the other ones. But overall, it seems like in the more, the more suburban, nicer regions, you can find some pretty good conditioned games. But like even at those, or like I've like you, I collect as many of the games as I can that I have interest in. I have a library dating back like ages at this point. And yeah, like, through Goodwills I have found things, thrift shops I've found things, garage sales, eBay, vintage stores, GameStops, all kinds of stuff. And like you said, it's always a gamble what you're gonna get because somebody could put an unholy amount of stickers all over the thing, and then you have to get basically this adhesive to get it off. Or if you can't get it off, you might have to cut it off, and it ruins the plastic. Or worse, sometimes they even put the sticker on the bloody disc itself.
Oh god.
Or um, yeah, I've had cases where it doesn't even come in the case, it comes in some replacement case with some fake art. Or I've had games like I have found some rarer games that I, was like, you know what? To get the game, I'll just do it. and I've bought some like without a case period, just floating around loose, like loose discs and stuff. And like usually they're pretty scratched up. But here, I don't know if y'all have it over there, but here there are a few stores where you can get a disc fixed if it's beat the heck, which kind of reduces the risk a little bit. Like $3 to $7 somewhere in there, you can get a disc fixed, and basically they put it in this deep clean machine, and it like laser like removes this top layer of scratch and grime off the disc and makes it work again like new. So I've done that several times for some really really janky games I've gotten. But I mean, I there are some cases where I'm like, I get a game, and then I get home, I'm like, I'm sanitizing the heck out of this. Feel like I need a rad suit to clean this thing, and like, you end up with like these mystery looking substances or whatever on your case. Or like, I remember helping my nephew. He wanted it was a Halo Forerunner controller for the 360. You remember that blue one?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Kind of blue and gray. It was super cool. It was caked in yogurt. I'm not even
Oh
kidding. And it was at a store, and I'm like, that's nasty, but it's a really good controller and really cool, and he really wants it. So I'm like, all right, I'll get it. And then I helped him scrub the bejeez out of that thing and cleaned it, and it works and it's great. But yeah, some people are filthy animals with their stuff, and I like you. I keep my stuff in pristine shape. Like I can go to my case or my bookshelf, and I've got stuff from 2001 on, and it looks like the day you got it. And I know not everybody has the same circumstances or everything, but generally put your disc back in the case if it's not in the console, and then put it back in the box or the shelf where you have it. It's worth it in the long run.
yeah. I hope it was yogurt, by the way.
Uh, yeah, yeah, I don't even want to think about the other alternative of that, but I mean, yeah, it looked like Gogurt of some kind. It was gross, man.
Yeah, I mean, while we're talking about this, I once bought a kind of a mystery bag of just gaming stuff. I was told there's literally X amount of 360 games. Not a number, just an X amount of 360 games. There's a controller, some cables, that type of stuff. I got it all for, I think it was like £23. It had some decent games in there. It had like the limited edition Gears of War 2 in like the paper box. Um,
Oh, awesome.
which I couldn't get at the time, so like I was happy to get that. But inside there was a white 360 controller, and it was absolutely caked in what looked to be bright orange Cheeto dust. Now,
Somebody had Code Red and Doritos or
yeah,
something.
and like I was so disappointed because like again, I do not like germs and stuff. And like I took that thing and I washed the hell out of it with a pair of gloves on, but like I don't why do people like before I touch my controller, are my hands washed? Yes or no? If the answer's no, I wash my bloody hands, I use sanitizer, whatever. Right? People need to stop eating and then touching controllers and stuff. I've seen some people's mice where it's like caked in this like grimy stuff. It's like stop it, right? Stop. It's annoying. It's disgusting. But yeah, I just wanted to rant about that because I've got maybe about 10 games left to get for my 360 collection before I'm done. I'm not trying to get the whole thing, just the games I want, and I'm definitely gonna have to go the used game route for the rest of these 10 because some of them are pretty bloody rare. Um, yeah, I really really don't want to see any more scuffed cases or anything. And the same goes towards PS3 and Wii games, right? Absolute states, right? The PS3 section where I live is tiny, and the cases in worse state. And those are Blu-ray cases. They tend to be made better. But yeah, so if anyone listening right now and you're maybe going to take some games to a store for some credit or whatever, shine them up a bit, clean them, you know. Because I swear to God, if I see one more controller or video game caked in Cheeto dust or anything slimy, there'll be a conversation happening. But yeah, that's my rant about used games. And I picked. By the way, it's partially my fault as well because I decided to start collecting for my 360 collection again in 2023. Right, I picked the worst time possible. I should have started doing this in 2012, 2011, but that's on me. Anyway, we've got literally 17 topics today, and I've still got about 3 rants left. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? We'll talk about the new Game Pass games quickly because there's actually some really cool games here that I think a lot of people may have skipped. So, let's see where this list is. Okay, here we go. There's a game called, Grounded 2 obviously comes to Xbox Game Pass later this month. It will be in game preview. I believe this is actually going to launch with the single player mode. You have Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, which is coming to Game Pass later this month. It is a action adventure Souls-like type game. You have Farming Simulator 25. That's actually, I hate to say this, and it's kind of funny, but like Farming Simulator in Europe is absurdly large, right? Like millions of people buy this every year. We have Wheel World, which is kind of like a racing game, I believe. You have, I'm going to try and not butcher this name, Abiotic Factor. Oh yeah, it's a top-down zombie game. You have RoboCop Rogue City. That's the big one. You also have My Friendly Neighbor. And you have... Okay, I just found out about this game, and I think people are going to bloody love it. It's called Back to the Dawn. It's set in a world where everyone's basically like, foxes or tigers, basically, animals. And it's an RPG that takes place in a prison. And it's your job to escape. And it's a 2/2.5D 16-bit game. So it's kind of done in the style of, Square Enix's HD 2D games. And it's all about escaping a prison. And there's tons of different ways, so it has insane replayability, and you have to make deals with guards, maybe dig a hole through a tunnel or whatever. Just a really cool idea for a video game. And I've actually been wanting more Prison Break games, because we really don't have many. But yeah, it looks so cool. So that's coming to Game Pass this month. And yeah, pretty good month. And for people that haven't played it, RoboCop Rogue City is the big standout. The follow-up, Unfinished Business, comes out later this month. And yeah, if you haven't played Rogue City, it's incredible. It basically takes place straight after the second movie, and it basically uncanonizes the third film, which I like to say doesn't exist because it's just a mess. It's terrible. But yeah, Logan, what do you think about this month's Game Pass stuff?
I thought it was a great batch. There's some titles I'm really looking forward to. Wu Chang Fallen Feathers is one that I've had my eye on for a while. I like Souls likes, and this looks like a new one that takes some inspiration from some successful ones and adds a little twist. So looking forward to playing that one. And especially, RoboCop is the big one, like you said. And to add to that, it was recently, they announced today, or it was revealed, whatever, that RoboCop and its standalone expansion will both be Xbox Play Anywhere titles as well.
Oh, good.
So, another reason to support the game and its expansion. And 2 more titles you'll be able to play on your portable device if you get one later down the line this year.
Yeah, it's good to see more developers actually, pushing that stuff. But yeah, that's Game Pass this month. Bunch of cool games. I honestly can't recommend RoboCop enough. As a RoboCop fan, we haven't really had anything to go on for quite a while. I mean, there was a game on the original Xbox, but if you look it up, it's awful. It literally looks like an N64 game. It must have had the budget of a can of Coke. It's terrible. But But yeah, RoboCop fans, they're eating good right now. They clearly had success with the first game, and look, as a developer, they've came a long way. They came out with a on rails Rambo game back on the 360, and I think it's like one of the lowest rated Metacritic games of all time. It's like an absolute travesty. And then they came out with Terminator Resistance in, I think, 2020, and it's incredible. And the only thing I'd say is bad about that game is that it's clearly held back by its budget. But in RoboCop, they have a really cool format. It's semi-open world. It's Unreal Engine 5, and everything looks photorealistic, basically, outside of the NPCs. But you don't really play the game for the NPC stuff. But it's just such a cool game. Really is. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? We'll talk about this quickly because it's a little bit, it's some drama. And I know a lot of people like drama in the gaming space. So Subnautica 2, the sequel to the very popular Subnautica, and the sequel was also meant to launch in Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And there's been some drama this past week where basically, trying to break this down as short as possible, the creators of Subnautica 2 had their game ready to publish by Krafton. And they had a deal in place where if the game came out by a certain date, they would get a $250 million bonus. So, nothing to shake a stick at. And it turns out they missed that deadline and they weren't going to get that bonus. Well, it came out this past week that they were fired before they could even meet that deadline. So there's been tons of drama behind the scenes whether they actually deserve that bonus. Did they earn it? Has there been some shady dealings in the past? So, Krafton didn't have to put out $250 million bonus. And there's been this back and forth all week because, it's, whether people might think it's niche or not, Subnautica is freaking huge. And basically, Krafton came out and said, look, they were putting their attention elsewhere. They weren't putting all attention on this game to get it out in time, and then they were fired. And then basically, it came out today, literally an hour ago, that they're going to try and work out a deal so they can still get their bonus if they can get their game out by, I think, late 2026. So, what a weird piece of drama for gaming this week. But it looks like they're going to get another chance to get their $250 million as a bonus. Hopefully everything works out. But Logan, what do you think? Because it was actually one of the biggest pieces of news this week.
Yeah, it was pretty wild and pretty eyebrow raising, some of the allegations that were coming out. Like, basically, like, the studio heads or the former leadership team were like, yeah, we were going to use this bonus to spread it among the dev team. Like, not for us, but so everybody basically got a big holiday bonus or big chunk of change to their name. And then they were unceremoniously, offed and let go. And so, and they were like, we met all the deadlines they were asking for early access. Like, the game was ready for early access, in our opinion. It was ready to go. We had met the milestones. And then Krafton was like, no, you didn't meet our deadlines. It was actually this or this. And then they're like, we got rid of the leadership team because, in their words, they accused them of working on company time to do other passion projects or hobbies and other things instead of actually working on the game, which is a pretty serious allegation they'll throw at somebody. So there was a lot of war words about that, and if they were if they were really just maliciously putting out and skipping deadlines and putting things to where it wasn't attainable so they wouldn't have to pay out. But it sounds like after all this drama and threat of lawsuits and legal action, they're like, all right, we'll give you a new deadline. You make this, you get your money, everybody can be happy. And that's where we're at right now. I hope it works out because I like Subnautica. It's like, for those who don't know, it's basically kind of like underwater alien grounded.
Oh, yeah.
But you're not shrunk. like you are normal size, but there are like Leviathan sized creatures that will tear you a new one if you're not careful. Like I think the Reaper fish or something like that. Those things are terrifying, and it's super beautiful and really fun world to live in and try to survive. So I'm excited for two, and I'm glad it's part of Game Pass. And I really, really hope they nail it because there's a lot of fans out there who really want Subnautica 2.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think Subnautica has like over 25 million players. Like,
Yeah, it's a not small chump change.
yeah, a lot of people play that game. I mean, hopefully they get it out in time and they get the bonus and stuff. But man, the game industry is it's not exactly safe from corruption. Like the game industry is flawed as hell, And I have heard some weird things about Krafton in the past. Whether they're true or not, I won't say. But yeah, the funny thing is, every time they buy a studio, everyone celebrates like, "Oh, Krafton's, we're going to get sequels to this." Like, I think they bought the Hi-Fi Rush team. Like, we'll see what
Yep,
happens.
they bought Tango.
Yeah, like we'll see what happens, but yeah, what they did, sounds very illegal, and hopefully, things will sort themselves out. But hey, Subnautica 2, it's still coming and in Game Pass. Let's see what we have next. My God, we still have 12 topics. You know what? We'll talk about this quickly. Ubisoft's had some issues over the past couple of years, unfortunately, and they get an insane amount of hate online. And I'll put it out there. I think Ubisoft, they can make some bloody excellent games. I will take my time to whine about the lack of Splinter Cell every week, but man, I've loved many Assassin's Creed games. I loved Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six Vegas. I absolutely love Rainbow Six Vegas. They are great developers when they kind of have the passion for it, and sometimes some of their games can feel. This might sound,
Formulaic.
yeah, formulaic. Watch Dogs basically has features from Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed has features from Watch Dogs. Far Cry has features from Assassin's Creed. Like that's where the whole you climb a tower and lock a part of the map meme came from, to the point where they even memed it themselves. But that's kind of how game design changed over the past generation, where a lot of games went open world and copied the Ubisoft format. But you can't deny the success of the Assassin's Creed franchise, especially when it's in its prime. Well, it turns out we're getting at least 3 Assassin's Creed remakes. One of which is Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which I've heard comes out this November. I'm not entirely sure how real it is, but I really believe it. So that's Assassin's Creed 4, which we are getting first. Assassin's Creed 1 remake, and what I believe to be an Assassin's Creed 2 remake. I don't want to say Ubisoft ran the well dry when it comes to different settings for different games, because they can basically choose any time period, any country. They can even revisit countries for different time periods. Hell, I would actually love a modern Assassin's Creed set in a city with cars and stuff. It'll basically be all the Watch Dogs mechanics, but in Assassin's Creed. But it looks like they're going to heavily lean on remakes while putting out new stuff. And you know what? If they're good, we all win. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, when that came out in 2013, that blew people's minds away, because that was at the time, the first open world pirate game, and where some people did say it wasn't the best Assassin's Creed game, it's the best pirate game. And I still think it is the best pirate game. Incredible story, incredible gameplay. It is weird not being able to crouch in an older game. But if they put things like that, newer gameplay mechanics, maybe the throwing knife mechanic from Assassin's Creed Mirage, we're all going to be eating bloody good, because peak Assassin's Creed with modern gameplay, we are looking at Game of the Year material, in my opinion. Maybe that's my inner Assassin's Creed fanboy coming out, but this is good news. As long as they don't change the remakes too much, don't change up the story or whatever, just put in fancy new graphics, new gameplay elements, keep the same soundtrack for the love of God, and keep the same characters, people will be happy. All in all, I'm happy we're getting multiple remakes. as someone that likes to go back and replay games, that first Assassin's Creed game, it's aged. I mean, if you go back and play that now, do you know the only way you can take out targets is literally by standing right next to them? That's it. There's nothing you do in that game other than go to a location, take out target. Move to the next location, take out target, rinse and repeat. And visually, at its time, stunning. The amount of crowds in the game, impressive, but that's why Assassin's Creed 2 felt like such a generational jump, because you could assassinate from benches, jump from walls, jump from roofs, poison people. It was all over the place. You could basically do anything. And if we get modern gameplay elements in games like that, we're all going to be in for a treat. Logan, I know you like Assassin's Creed well, especially the old ones. What do you think about the remake situation?
Oh, I'm day one. I Assassin's Creed 4, like, I don't know, it is such a weird conundrum. Like, honestly, I think I like it better considering it almost not as an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah.
Like, as just a pure pirate adventure. Like, I love the game and I love the story. I love the characters, the gameplay. Like, one minute you're chopping through the jungles on, some ruin to find some artifact. The next minute you're hunting Moby Dick way out in the ocean. And another you're fighting legendary dreadnought ships. Like 2 versus 1 or whatever. And then the story's good. I really enjoyed it. Phenomenal. But it felt less assassiny to me than the other Assassin's Creeds. Like, it felt more like I was a pirate who got conned into being an assassin rather than like this guy was like Altair or Ezio and they were like groomed and raised up through the assassins. And I the first one is iconic. I can't wait to revisit that one. Like you said, it hasn't aged particularly wonderfully, but it's still fun. Like there are only so many ways you can walk up to a guy and go, press X, press X, press X. And before it's like, all right, let's add some diversity to this. But and then 2 is obviously like when they really opened up the formula and add like the temple challenges and armor collections and horseback and all this other stuff. So yeah, I'm totally down for them resurrecting these. As long as they treat them right, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, like Ubisoft, they have the ability to put out some phenomenal games. Like, I will always say that, Splinter Cell Blacklist is the best Splinter Cell game when it comes to gameplay and mission design. Yeah, you don't have Michael Ironside, which is a shame, but a lot of people don't actually know this. Michael Ironside was going through some serious health issues at the time. It's like he couldn't do the voice acting. He definitely couldn't do the physical stuff because that was the first. I think it was the first Splinter Cell game they actually did motion capture for. But outside of that, it's an incredible game. But hey, I'm happy for more Assassin's Creed games, especially some of my favorites coming back. Um, but look, if Assassin's Creed 4 remake comes out this November, it has updated gameplay, new visuals, maybe some gameplay elements from Assassin's Creed Mirage. Because I will hype that throwing knife every single day. It will be in the Game of the Year conversation because its story was excellent, the gameplay excellent, and honestly, it's kind of funny if you go back and play the 360 version, at least of AC4. There's gameplay mechanics in that you can't even do in Skull and Bones. How is that a thing? You know, like swinging to another person's ship and boarding it, and then fighting the crew and taking out the captain, then taking that ship as a new member of your fleet or whatever. Like, that's such a cool gameplay mechanic. You can't do that in Skull and Bones. If I have to ever play that coconut mechanic in Skull and Bones ever again, I will jump off a cliff, figuratively in Minecraft. But yeah, that's Assassin's Creed. I can't wait for more. And while we're talking about Assassin's Creed quickly, like Valhalla. Do you know how excited I was for Valhalla? It was an Xbox Series X launch title, right? It was set in the UK. I look. I'm a British guy. I know for a fact that I may or may not have Norse ancestors. So like I like the idea of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and the game was just a huge disappointment to me. Like beautiful gameplay, beautiful visuals, and the story was just a huge letdown. And I love history, you know, British history going back, hundreds and hundreds of years. It was disappointing to me. But hey, I'm happy for more games, especially Assassin's Creed 4. And AC2 is one of my favorite games of all time, so we could see that in the next couple of years. Either way, we're getting more games. Now let's move on. You know what? Let's see what we have next. Okay, Logan, I don't know if you've seen this story, but I think you're going to love it. So, today, there was a new thing trademarked called Fatekeeper. And it turns out this is actually it's a term from Kingdoms of Amalur. And there's been no news on Kingdoms of Amalur as a franchise since 2023 when they got out the expansion, or it might have been 22 for the remaster. Well, anyway, the THQ Nordic event is on, I believe, the 1st of August, where they're going to announce new games as well as updates to games we already know about. Now, it is a bit weird that Fatekeeper, which is a term from Kingdoms of Amalur, just gets trademarked before they have a showcase. It's a bit suspicious, but I just thought I'd bring it up because I know you really like that game. And, from what I played, it's incredible. I still need to finish it, but I absolutely loved it. Too many games, not enough time. What can I say? But yeah, what do you think of that, Logan? Because I know you absolutely loved the original.
Oh, I didn't hear about this Fatekeeper thing. That is glorious news because I loved Kingdoms of Amalur. It was basically like someone besides Peter Molyneux decided to make Fable type game.
Yeah.
And without just weird things thrown in there to try to make, gimmicky mechanics or promote some new idea or whatever. It was super fun and a really good story. The combat was just super fluid and fun. Like it didn't feel like a chore. Like it had a very unique play style, and like there's so much decision making and quests and upgrading and customization. It was like a Fable like to the max with some other stuff mixed in, like a little bit darker than a Fable, more like a little bit of Game of Thrones mixed with Fable, a little bit. And yeah, like they came out with that expansion after they got the rights to the game from Studio 38, who had, basically been shuttered, and the state of Rhode Island randomly owned the rights to the game for ages. So, yeah, I'm so excited to hear this. I will 100% day one that game if they announce a new Kingdoms of Amalur game or expansion. I will be there, and I bet that is the mystery game now. Now that this has been brought up, I think that that's the mystery game at their show. Because they said they had two games that you already know what they are, Gothic and something else, and then a new game that they're revealing. So with this announcement, I really think that's going to be the new Amalur.
Yeah. I mean, if it is there, that'll be a huge announcement because like when the remaster was announced, people lost their minds. Like my only experience back in the day was oh yeah, I played the demo to get Mass Effect armor. That was it. But yeah, the remaster was really good. If people are interested, it's 4K 60. All the bells and whistles, and like you said, it is basically a Fable game if Peter Molyneux wasn't involved, and it also has. It's kind of like God of War 3 style combat
Mm-hmm.
in a way, and yeah, it's such a cool game, and it's massive. It's a massive game. Like I think if you do everything, it's probably like 100 hours long. But they originally
And
did.
it's not fetch questy.
Yeah, no fetch quests or anything like that. Like each quest feels purposeful. You've got really cool castles which you go in, which feel like mazes and stuff. It's a really cool game, and that game world was originally meant to be an MMO, so they actually made just something I feel it felt really lived in. I don't know, there was something about it, but even though it did have development hell, if people can ever watch, the thing is, there's a YouTube channel called Gamers where the A is spelt with a V. They did an incredible documentary on Kingdoms of Amalur's development, and they pulled it randomly. And I don't know why. Maybe it was a legal problem, but if you get the chance to watch it, maybe you find a way. Highly recommend it. Such a cool piece of gaming history. Getting the state of Rhode Island to basically pay for a game that was never going to make its money back. Oof. But hey, gaming history, it's interesting. But yeah, the THQ Nordic event is 15, 16 days away, and I do have a feeling we will see that there, as well as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Ronin game, The Last Ronin. That game was announced 3 years ago. Then we got a subtle trailer at a PlayStation showcase. I think it was like 2 years ago, and it is coming to Xbox as well. But we haven't actually seen gameplay. And for people that may want to just try and search for it, don't. It's just a bunch of AI fluff. By the way, I absolutely hate fake AI game trailers. Hate it. Same with movie trailers. Stop it. It's cringeworthy, and we can spot it a mile away. But for some reason, they get like ridiculous views, and it's so fake. Rant over. But yeah, THQ Nordic, hopefully they have some stuff cooking. It could be a big payoff. You know what? We're about an hour into the show. If you're enjoying it, please hit like, share, and subscribe. It does help with the algorithm with all the likes and stuff. And, it helps the channel out. It helps the channel grow and also the podcast grow. If you want to support the channel with super chats, everything I'll read out. It's greatly appreciated. And it all goes back into the show. Anyway, we'll move on. The Cyberpunk... By the way, for people listening, we are going to get to the big stuff in a little bit. Literally, I like to call this show a mullet-style podcast. We have the short topics up front and the long topics in the back. You know what? We'll keep this quick. So, Cyberpunk 2077 has got a patch. We think tomorrow. There's going to be a Cyberpunk event tomorrow, July 16th. And I think it's going to be around 4 p.m. UK time. We don't actually know what's in this, right? But the official Cyberpunk account on Twitter is really hyping up this event. Now, do I think we're going to get a new expansion just randomly announced? No, but the amount of gameplay mechanics they've added over the past 5 years, they've added a lot. So I'm looking forward to it. I still need to do my proper playthrough of the game. So like, if that patch drops tomorrow, I'm starting the game tomorrow. Fresh save, all that stuff. I'm looking forward to it. Some people think it might be vehicle-based combat or some additions to vehicle-based combat. But, I mean, it's Cyberpunk. They've came such a long way. Logan, are you looking forward to this at all?
Oh yeah, for sure. Cyberpunk is something I'm very much looking forward to. New content, hopefully an expansion if they revealed it would be awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah, and they are moving to Unreal Engine 5 for the sequel, which that's a couple of years away. We're not going to see anything related to that. But Edge Runners Season 2 was announced. Some people have the theory that it actually has something to do with Edge Runners 2 content, because if you've seen the first season of Edge Runners, you actually see a bunch of places in the game in that show, which is actually really cool. So it could be some teasers relating to the upcoming show. But either way, I mean, I'm just happy to see Cyberpunk thrive. That has to be at least top 5, gaming comebacks of all time. Because I will always say it, number 1, it's No Man's Sky.
Oh, of course.
Like they came back in such a good way. And, I'd actually say number 2 for me would actually be the Master Chief Collection. Because that game
That's a good choice.
That game was broken to hell, at least for me, like when it came out. But now, pristine, perfect. But yeah, Cyberpunk, they've came a long way, fixed everything. The funny thing is about Cyberpunk, I've spoke to people that have never had a single issue when it came out. Like, their playthrough was perfectly fine, no issues. And for some other people, absolutely atrocious and bugs. It depends on everyone else. But yeah, new Cyberpunk stuff coming. Again, I believe that's 4 p.m. UK time tomorrow. Let's see what we've got next. My God. You know what? I'm going to rant about Mass Effect for a minute because I don't really get to on Twitter. So, bear in mind, if people like Mass Effect Andromeda, I hope they love it. And people might be able to see where I'm going with this. I hope people enjoy that. I hope they like the gameplay. I hope they like the world, all that stuff. And I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, right? Because I'm about to pop off. So we might be getting some clues about when the next Mass Effect is set. There's been some back and forth when, were some leaks real? Were they not? There's a certain subset of the Mass Effect fan base that they are absolutely obsessed with calling the next Mass Effect game Mass Effect 5. Some people might be able to know where I'm going with this. Not on my watch, right? So if you have a game that does really badly, or movie or whatever, in a franchise, isn't the worst thing you can do is follow up the thing that almost tanked the franchise? Because there's a subset of Mass Effect fans, and I've noticed this, that they want the next Mass Effect game to follow Andromeda. And that blows my mind, right? Mass Effect as a franchise went into hiatus shortly after Andromeda came out because it did so badly. There's probably going to be a landfill documentary at some point where there's just endless copies of Mass Effect Andromeda, rightfully so, in the rightful place. And it really annoys me. And because, BioWare, let's be honest, I love BioWare. They've made some of the best games of all time. And if they don't have a huge success with this next game, I 100% think they are done as a studio. It came out recently that they are no longer making Dragon Age games, essentially, and they are only making Mass Effect going forward. That is good for the franchise. Especially what happened with the Veilguard. I completely get it, but this is Mass Effect's only and last chance. And for the love of God, if we get a sequel to Andromeda, I'm calling it now, instant flop. Floposaurus Rex, whatever you want to call it. Because you can't have a product that almost tanks a franchise, and just because a subset online really want to follow that story, if they think that's going to succeed, I have a bridge to sell them. Because it honestly, I just don't get it, right? You have Andromeda tanks the franchise, multiple books get cancelled, basically the franchise gets put on hiatus, and then you announce, hey, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, as well as, hey, we're making a new Mass Effect game. And the emphasis on the trailer was the Milky Way, the bloody Milky Way where the trilogy was set. They show Liara, and people are obsessed with thinking it's going to follow Andromeda. Yes, I'm ranting, I realize this. But I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because people seem to be obsessed with following Andromeda. I get it, right? Maybe some people like the characters in that game. In fact, there's things about Andromeda I really liked. But on no way on earth I want a follow-up to Andromeda. No. People want Commander Shepard. I will die on this hill. I want a new Commander Shepard game. I want Garrus to return, Miranda, basically my whole bloody crew. I'm fed up with seeing this online, and people just think that, hey, and we see this in the Star Wars world as well, right? Like, I didn't watch The Acolyte, so I can't really say, but the Acolyte apparently didn't do well. So if you're going to make a new live action show, what do? Do you set it in a time era where people like or didn't like? And to me, that just seems like common sense. Logan, I know we have some similar, opinions on this Mass Effect topic, but we're probably going to find out in the next year and a half when the next Mass Effect game is set. What's your opinion on the whole Mass Effect situation?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because on one hand, like, we make jokes all the time about how there's some games that you and I love, but we're like one of like 12 people who actually want to happen. So like I get it, and I don't clown people for liking Andromeda because it has some redeeming value to it. There's some things I enjoyed about it. There was just a lot I didn't. And like I wonder if honestly they try to, which could like the pie in the sky idea where they somehow delicately thread the needle to where they appease both the Andromeda people and the don't even mess with it, just go back to the original type stuff people, to where like maybe they somehow conjure up some sequel, like narratively it will take into account things from this, but and be set after, but also tied with, the other. Like, I don't know how they would do that, but maybe they try to do something like that. But if I were to choose between um, you know, just being a direct sequel to Andromeda or like the classic trilogy, it's a no-brainer. It's classic trilogy all the way, 100%. Like it or not, The Last Jedi was a a very polarizing film in the Star Wars fan base. We'll just put it that way. And
Yeah.
I feel like Andromeda was that. And so I feel like this might BioWare. I have a hunch that they are going to take the Disney route of, oh bleep, okay, we gotta like either retcon things or revamp things, tweak things, and go way to the other to appease, to try to make them happy again. I hope it succeeds, but if you go too far one way, the pendulum kind of gets messed up, and I don't know. I don't envy them. Bottom line, I don't envy them. This is not an easy task to try to resurrect a beloved franchise that you completely made an abomination out of the last time you tried. So, good luck, Bioware, because you have this on top of whatever on this green earth you call those Kunari things you put in
Yep.
Veilguard, and just BioWare, they feel like a dead studio walking. Like, I hope they get it together. I hope they ace it. I hope this is like a phoenix moment. They rise from the ashes. They're better than ever. Everybody's like, see, the BioWare magic was real. Everybody drinks the Kool-Aid, sings Kumbaya, and everything's wonderful. But I just, I don't know. I'm nervous. I'm not going to lie about this one.
Yeah. I mean, like, three things scare me in life: spiders, spelunking, which is cave diving. You know, when people are squeezing through those tiny like rock crevices and whatever. That scares the living hell out of me. Wouldn't do that in a million years.
Oh, do you like the descent?
Uh, yeah, not for me. Um, and
Yeah.
Mass Effect 4, like that scares the living hell out of me. Um, because like, look, there's things like I liked about Andromeda, but like set it 600 years in the future where there'd be basically two characters alive that we know of, Rex and Liara. That's it. And that's if Rex survived during your playthrough. Like, is that what we really want? Like, this might sound weird to some people, but I think for them to have success, and we'll get into the big topics in a minute. I think BioWare to have success, they have to pander to hell to trilogy fans. Like, pander to hell. You have Paragon and Renegade back. You bring back the older characters. Have the game set maybe just like 3 years max after the last game. Whatever. Bring back Shepard. I don't care. Because we've brought him back once, we can do it again. And according to my game save, Shepard bloody lived at the end. But yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because I don't really talk about this stuff on Twitter. I'm not going to have my bi-weekly Mass Effect rant on Twitter. I'm just not going to do that. Because I don't like the crap on games people like, right? And I've noticed there's a pretty decent portion of Andromeda fans are on social media. Like, if they like it, great. Again, like I said, there's things I liked about Andromeda. I liked the vehicle and how that handled in that game, the Nomad. I really did. I liked the font of the Andromeda Initiative in the game itself. I'm grasping at straws at this point because I like a font. But yeah, that's all safe for now. It's like, oh god, I could talk for 4 hours about this. But yeah, Mass Effect trilogy. That's like, follow the trilogy. Don't apparently, from what I've heard, this has gone around a bit. The next Mass Effect game isn't going to be open world. It's going to be, hub-based like Mass Effect 2 and 3. If that's the case, that's already a win. So, like, we don't need open world, none of that stuff. Again, my blood's boiling, and I'm just talking about this stuff. It's just video games. Let's move on, because I'm so angry. Right? You know what? So, for people watching live, you may have noticed that the title has changed during the show, because I actually pasted the wrong thing. So, Helldivers 2 was announced for Xbox like 3 weeks ago. A lot of people are happy. Some people were really, really annoyed by it. But this is going to be, really good for the fan base. And, by the way, the Helldivers community online, they've been wanting Xbox support since that game bloody came out, right? The Helldivers community online, they are really cool. From what I've seen, they've came up with tons of memes about Xbox players joining. I'd be shocked if they don't put it on the Switch too at some point this year. So Helldivers 2, they're going to have huge success. I mean, if you're going to put a new game on an Xbox and it's a game where you shoot aliens and robots, I think you're going to have some success there. ODST fans are basically sold on this game to begin with. But yesterday, I was perusing Twitter, as you do, and I was scrolling down my feed, and Insomniac put out a post of Spider-Man hanging off a building, doing the peace sign, and that's basically it. And almost every reply was people just anticipating this game coming to Xbox. And I get why people were doing this. They're trying to get on, the people's nerves that would be really annoyed by it. But at the same time, you have to look at it like this. Like, that game is, 7, 8 years old? Spider-Man. It came out in 2017 or 2018. And, they had huge success with it. They even remastered it. And that game is essentially just sitting on a server somewhere. Right? I think Sony is 100% using the Helldivers 2 stats to gauge or not whether they're going to release more games on Xbox. Because if it was just a multiplayer thing, you essentially would have launched Helldivers 2 on everything at the same time. Have the max player pool at the beginning, where people could buy battle passes and however they do skins in that game. Like, that's how you would do that. So, like, whereas Spider-Man isn't my title right now, I'm not saying I know Spider-Man's coming. All I'm saying is, it kind of makes sense. Before the multi-platform stuff happened last year with Microsoft, I was saying on this show that I 100% think that Sea of Thieves was going to other platforms, because I think as a popular game on Xbox, it reached its max sales potential and player potential. Because all games essentially have that. Unless you call GTA or Red Dead Redemption, all games on all platforms have a max ceiling that, look, if you didn't own an Xbox and you wanted to play Sea of Thieves in 2024, you were never going to buy an Xbox specifically to play that game. That's the way I see it. So my thought is, like, if you don't own a PlayStation and plan on playing Spider-Man now in 2025, can you imagine the amount of money Sony would make off putting Spider-Man on Xbox and Switch? Because let me tell you, on Xbox and Switch, we don't have an open world Spider-Man game outside of The Amazing Spider-Man, which I believe came out in 2014 and was delisted after being out for 3 months. So there's definitely a market for it. Sony would make, while people would argue back and forth online, Sony would literally make hundreds of millions of dollars. So, like, I actually really do see it coming. Why not? If you're on PlayStation and you already own Spider-Man, nothing's being taken away. If you're not on PlayStation and didn't really have any intention of buying a PlayStation, then, again, Sony's not missing out on console sales. So, to me, it kind of makes sense. And, look, I would 100% support PlayStation. PlayStation with a Spider-Man version on Xbox. The way the industry's going at the minute, all these games cost way too much. So, like, getting extra money off old ports, that kind of really makes sense. Unless you're Nintendo, where you can put out a game and it's guaranteed to sell like 20 million copies, I think Microsoft and Sony are going to do this. Like, bring over old games. I can see Sony doing that. What about you, Logan? Because it's been a spicy topic this past week, but, like, there's demand there. And if a lot of people do buy Helldivers, that'll send Sony a message.
Yeah, I believe it is very contingent upon how Helldivers 2 does. But I don't think it's fair to say it's 100% like that's the sole reason they would or wouldn't. But I think if that game is in the top 5, top 10 for a while sold on Xbox and is hitting crazy player engagement numbers and everything without Game Pass, and Sony goes, wow, okay, yeah, there's clearly a demand on this platform for our titles. And, they have the new CEO talking, like, expanding their horizons into new mediums and new player bases and user stuff. So it makes total sense. And Spider-Man, I know for a fact that game on Xbox, it would sell just a unseemly amount. It would be just ridiculous because basically Sony is blueballed like the Xbox community from like comic book games for ages, essentially, because it used to be, back in the day. I know, insert old man joke, but it it back in the day it was like we would have the Star Wars games, we'd have the Marvel games, DC games, Lord of the Rings games, all the licensed games you love were everywhere. Or a few were exclusive because they were made by a specific studio, but we didn't really think of it that much that way at the time. It was just, oh, okay, Obsidian made this and it's on Xbox, for Knights of the Old Republic 2, or BioWare made Knights of the Old Republic for Xbox. And, and then there was Republic Commando, but then, PlayStation had its own with Bounty Hunter and some other stuff. It kind of just, but for the most part, everything was multi-platform, and especially the Spider-Man games, the X-Men games, Wolverine, Hulk, Captain America, you name it. They were multi-plat for the vast majority until, you know, the PS4 era where Sony is like locks down Insomniac and it's like going forward this is just on PlayStation devices. And Spider-Man is, I would say, one of the 5 most popular comic book characters out there. I don't really think that's crazy to say. I think he's for sure one of the most popular. So it seems a no-brainer to expand it to more devices and communities, especially when, like, we've talked in the past about how it feels like certain franchises are above exclusivity, like a Star Wars, a Lord of the Rings, like they should be for everybody everywhere. And to me, like, Spider-Man feels like that. So, especially with the walls coming down for exclusivity in general, Halo and Gears going to PlayStation, Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox, things going to Switch, like, I I think it's just a matter of time before it comes to Xbox. It might not be immediate, but I think sooner than later it will. And I think it'll be a no-brainer and I'll be there day one.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back, what, 2 years, something, when we were talking about, excuse me, when we were talking about like Final Fantasy VII Remake coming to Xbox, and yeah, that's Square Enix, but same thing. Um, like we were talking about how like, oh, it has a snowball's chance in hell of coming this generation, before the trilogy ends, so to speak, because that was the common thing. If we do get them on Xbox, it'll be after the trilogy's done, which is what I used to think. And obviously that's not the case now. Seeing how the tide is changing, because when Microsoft started putting their games on PC in 2016, starting with Quantum Break, people lost the marbles uh, for some reason, and some people got so angry they were atting Phil Spencer all the time, and making a tool out of themselves. And those same people, they would play their multi-platform games such as Call of Duty on the Xbox instead of a PC. So like, I never understood why those people got angry. And Microsoft putting more games on other platforms, like, that's been a huge shock to a lot of people. Like, I think we're at a point now where we're kind of over it. Like, if anyone's like sitting there salty, and believe me, I get this on a daily basis. There's people that reply to my posts that they are still salty, still like livid, angry that this stuff's happening. It's like, it happened a year ago. Get over it, right? Uh, there was a time when Sony wouldn't put their games on PC. And for the longest time, they didn't. And then they did, 3 years after launch, 2 years, then 1 year. Then people would say, never day and date. Then they did with Helldivers 2, and people said it was because it's a live service game. Then Lego Horizon Adventures went to the Switch day one, which isn't a live service game. It's a single player / co-op game. So, like, Sony, I think they're gradually realizing that there's money to be had. And, like, I would bet that Lego game sold more on the Switch. A lot of families have a Switch, now a Switch 2. Like, that's something they could sell to. And, like, look, if you're on Xbox, and I'll mention, this is going to be a topic I mentioned before, but do you know Xbox had a sale, and I think it's still on right now, to promote the new Superman film? There was a DC video game sale. Right?
Oh, that was a sad sale.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, Microsoft was promoting the new Superman movie, and on Twitter they were saying, "Hey, there's a new DC sale." Pretty cool, right? However, the superhero landscape when it comes to DC is kind of depressing because the games that were listed were Batman Arkham Collection, Gotham Knights, and Suicide Squad Killer Justice League. And I think, there may have been some Lego games, like Lego Batman 3 or whatever, but, like, that's the state of superhero games at the minute, And if you're on, PlayStation, you have Spiderman as well. And we also have Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. But, like, superhero games, we just don't have many. So I think, they could tap into a market, and I honestly think that maybe a Spider-Man game on Xbox, just because people are wanting new open world superhero games, I think you could get a couple of million in sales. I genuinely believe that. When DeathStranding, a game that people meme for being a FedEx simulator, came to Xbox, it was number 1 in a lot of countries, number 2 in a lot of countries. Like, and this was by revenue. A £17 game where you basically walk from place to place carrying boxes. Right? So imagine how much a open world Spider-Man game would sell. Now, I have seen certain outlets say this is port begging, but for ever since Starfield came out, we've seen major gaming outlets literally question Phil Spencer, is this game ever coming to PlayStation? This was before any multi-platform stuff. So it's okay to only ask about Xbox games, but not PlayStation. And I think Helldivers changes the conversation just a little bit. A lot, actually. And look, I've never had the intention of buying a PlayStation to play Spider-Man. I do actually intend on getting one at some point, but if I could get a Spider-Man game on Xbox, I'll buy it immediately. Right? I know people that had no intention of buying a PlayStation for Helldivers 2, and they are buying Helldivers 2 on the Xbox. There's millions to be had, and yeah, it is weird seeing a different company's logo on the box, like having Gears of War on a PlayStation. It's going to look weird, but, like, that's a 19-year-old game, and it's a 10-year-old remake. Is anyone really crying over spilt milk at this point? Like, I think, the game industry is in a rough shape. I think, porting old games specifically, it's just a good way to make money. And again, if you don't own a PlayStation to play Spider-Man right now, you weren't ever going to do it. That's my logic anyway. But, there's certain parts of the internet, they will absolutely hate this topic. They don't want to hear it. They don't want any part of it. I've seen people literally deactivate their social media accounts because, Helldivers was announced for Xbox. I mean, it's a win-win situation for people. The Helldivers community gets bigger. PlayStation makes a crap ton of money. And it will fund other projects. Meaning, PlayStation fans will get more games. Right? Like, it's literally a net positive in every angle. But, like, I don't think there's many people right now. Like, if you're an Xbox gamer or Switch gamer, Switch 2, sorry, like, you're not going to be sitting there thinking, you know what, I'm thinking about getting a PlayStation in 2025 specifically for Helldivers 2, right? I don't think that's happening. At least that's how I think. But yeah, just thought I'd bring it up because Spider-Man has been a big topic today, and like whether out will happen anytime soon, it remains to be seen. But hey, if it does happen, I will be there day one, and I'm sure millions of other people will be as well. Anyway, let's move on. We still have like 10 topics. You know what? We'll talk about this quickly because I thought it was funny. So, Asus are coming out with an ROG Xbox Ally this year. It looks pretty cool. I like the design of it. It's kind of like a Steam Deck, but with a kind of like an elongated screen. I actually like the design of it. It looks comfortable. The weight of it looks like it's going to be fair. And people have been wondering back and forth, like, what is the price of this handheld? Bear in mind, it's a PC handheld, not a Xbox console handheld. Big difference. Well, people have been going back and forth online. I like to look at what people have been saying, and people have suggested it has to be $300. It has to be $400. And I've laughed, right? Because I've been laughing. We already have ROG Allies out in the wild that you can buy. At the minute, an ROG Ally goes anywhere between £600 and £700, right? So this new ROG Xbox Ally is a more powerful device. It's Xbox branded, and it's technically a better product. And people think it's going to cost less. And I've been saying, literally since the week of Xbox's Summer Showcase, it's going to be $800 upwards, right? Because that's how much one of those PC handhelds costs. And anyway, it leaked last night that the European price is anywhere between €700. You can kind of convert to dollars loosely, because the currency exchange rate is around about the same. But anywhere between $700 and $1,000. People seem livid. They seem shocked. And to me, like, this is fully expected. Like, these specific PC handhelds, like, they aren't cheaper like consoles. Like, these PC handhelds, such as a Steam Deck, and there's a bunch of other companies that make them. Like, these are pricey pieces of kit. And like, while this device isn't necessarily for me because I want a native handheld, the PC handheld player base, it's grown by the day. So like, to me, it's not surprising, but a lot of people seem surprised by this. Logan, what's your take? Because the price seems shocked people, and obviously I think we'll get the US price and the official price in the next month. But a lot of people seem surprised by a $700. I'll say a $700 to $1,000 price range.
I mean, this is what I figured from the beginning. It would be
Yeah.
around this, maybe even a little bit more, to be honest. Um, I mean, to put it bluntly, handheld PCs ain't cheap. Like,
Oh yeah.
you're breaking down a very complicated machine into a portable format and trying to keep it cooled and powered, and then have a decent battery life and decent memory and ergonomics and all this stuff. Like, it adds up quite a bit. So the fact that it's this price doesn't surprise me at all. It seems reasonable to me. Would I like it if it was a little cheaper? Heck yeah, I'd like it if it was a little cheaper. But I mean, that's not the world we live in. So I plan on getting one later this year. I think I'll probably get the more powerful model
Yeah.
when it comes out. Like, would I prefer the Xbox, like, portable console itself came out this year instead? Yes, I would prefer that 100% because I'd like to play my whole library natively on it rather than just play anywhere. But the more I've looked at my library and, like, going from manually sorting all my games from Play Anywhere and stuff and looking at games I'm interested in going forward, quite a bit of my library going forward will be Play Anywhere already is. So to me, it seems like it. I know everybody makes a joke about this is an Xbox, but to me, in essence, it is an Xbox handheld. It's just not the um full tier that I want yet. So this is like a prototype to me. So as a stopgap from my cloud only device to the next Xbox, handheld, assuming they still make it and it's not permanently sidelined.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this. And even if they didn't make a Xbox full on handheld, this would be a nice companion device to have with my Series X successor. So either way, I'm happy and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so I just did a quick search, and the current Xbox is the current ROG Ally X, which is the more powerful. It's the black one, and that's the current design, not the new one. That's going for £799 on the Asus eStore. And for people that don't know, that is around $1,069, right? So bear in mind, you are paying a little bit more because you're buying from their website. Depends on where you live, really, but like you're getting a more powerful version that's Xbox branded, and like I don't know why people think these things are going to be cheap, because again, it's a PC, not a console. These devices have like 120 hertz screens. They have really like high capacity storage for a device that small. Like everything about it, like it's pricey. And you also throw on the Xbox brand, and that ups the price a little bit. But like I said, this device isn't for me. But the market for PC handhelds has grown. Xbox is trying to get their Xbox branding very much associated with PCs, considering that the Steam OS is going to be on third-party devices. Like Microsoft wants Xbox to be branded with PC as long as consoles out there in the wind. I think it will find its market, but people should not really be surprised by the price. They really shouldn't. Now, in an ideal world, would it be $300? Yeah, like who wouldn't like that? A Windows / Xbox device for $300 that you could take on the go with 120 hertz display. Beautiful. Not gonna happen. Like for me, I'm always more interested in first party like hardware. Like when you were younger and you would have like your N64, your PlayStation or Xbox, and you would get a second controller so you could play with a family member or a friend, and it was always
Mad Cat.
Yeah, Mad Cats or like whatever like made up brand people can come up with, because like those controllers back then specifically were absolutely atrocious. Like we had a PlayStation 2 controller that was, it might have been Mad Cats, I can't remember, but it was purple, bright purple, and it had like trigger stops and everything, even though you didn't really need trigger stops back then. But like it was like so uncomfortable, and the plastic was based. I wouldn't be surprised if I found out that was also made in the same factory where McDonald's make their Happy Meal toys, because the plastic was atrocious. But that's kind of like how I view companies making first party devices. It's a mental scape I just can't avoid. That's just how I think still. But although I have seen some Xbox controllers that look really good, but yeah, it looks like it's going to be pricey. I'm not really surprised. It'll find its market, and I'm sure that when there is a console handheld, I think it will be significantly cheaper. My theory for the past my theory for the past year is that the Xbox Series S style console is not going to be a thing next gen. They're going to launch with their fancy, home console, the Xbox Series X successor. By the way, Xbox, please call it Xbox 6. I'm sick of just saying the name and convention over and over again. But Xbox 6 with no Roman numerals and no weird wording. Just get the console out there, and I think maybe a year later you're going to see a handheld come out with a reduced form factor, much like a Switch, because the Switch is pretty thin, and I think that's how they're going to do it. So you'll have the handheld and you'll have the home console, and I don't think there will be any Series S style console, because you can already stream on certain Amazon sticks and things like that. So I think that's going to be their in for a cheaper gaming experience. and I think it could work out for them. But yeah, that's the ROG Ally and the Xbox stuff because it's a big topic today. You know what? We'll talk about this quickly. So Xbox Game Pass and sustainability has been a topic that's been, let's be honest, it should have been put to bed by now. And my argument is that like Microsoft, they've had a tendency to pull the plug on services and products in the past. Why on earth would you keep Game Pass around for 8 years if you felt like it wasn't being sustainable? We have all these different subscription services on the planet, from Netflix to Spotify Premium, and they're all around. Netflix has been around for God knows how long. Nobody had a problem with Blockbuster, but Game Pass is the scapegoat of the industry, and I keep saying this. Game Pass, when it first came out, I didn't subscribe to it because I had most of the games in there. I had all of Xbox's first-party stuff. I had the third-party stuff like Batman Arkham Knight and Alien Isolation and Shadow of Mordor. So for me, there was no incentive to buy into Game Pass. But when they start adding way more games on a consistent basis and then added things like perks, for me, it was a no-brainer to basically start getting Game Pass. Then they put the EA stuff in, and then, they attached your Xbox Live to it. So, to me, Game Pass, for me, it's a subscription I need. I'm the same with Disney Plus, by the way. I watch all of the Fox stuff. I'm currently going through the Clone Wars again, which is excellent, by the way. I can't see myself unsubscribing from Disney Plus basically ever. But all these people are just going after Game Pass all the time, and they'll make up these little magical scenarios like, what if Microsoft locks games behind the subscription service? Is this the reason why studios are closing down? And people, and journalists, by the way, they were putting Microsoft's layoffs, which was in the thousands, all on Game Pass, even though the developers from Microsoft, and Xbox, was in the hundreds. The majority of people that were fired from Microsoft were literally Microsoft and not Xbox. They did have their fair share, but people putting entire companies' layoffs in different divisions on Game Pass was the biggest scapegoat I've ever seen. And yeah, you did have people making their cringe thumbnails of, is Xbox the end of gaming? Is this the end of Xbox for the millionth time in 2025? People were just exaggerating this. Xbox Game Pass is bad. And I guarantee you that every single one of those people, they subscribe to Netflix. They subscribe to maybe PS Plus, maybe Nintendo Online, Disney Plus, Spotify Premium, Prime. Logan, have you ever heard anyone question the sustainability of Amazon Prime, how they can give you this large catalog of, entertainment and services such as free shipping? Have you ever heard anyone say that?
If I did, it had to have been at least 10 years ago. It hasn't been recently if I've heard that. It just works. They can subsidize their awesome shows and stuff by the fact they're making so much bank from Amazon itself. And you got everybody and their dog subscribed to Amazon Prime, so you get free 2-day shipping. And then for everything small from I'm ordering a balm of chapstick to I'm ordering a 4K curved TV, they have everything. And then people order all the time, all the stuff, and then they take hits on some things, but then they make it way back in spades on other stuff. And so it totally works, and it's absolutely not an issue for them.
Yeah, and we see this back and forth online all the time because you have people defending Game Pass and you have people going for Game Pass, but people don't have to defend Netflix. They don't have to defend Prime, Apple TV, any of these. But Game Pass is hey, the game industry's having these problems, and rather than talk about the real issue, which we've talked about before, we're not going to go over again. People, instead of blaming the real issues, journalists doing their actual job, they're just making up these factoids that, hey, Game Pass is, stopping people from buying games. It's causing the industry to die. They're basically pulling these, out of their anus, and it's so annoying because you're ignoring the problem to go with a scapegoat, but none of these people, and this drives me insane, none of these people actually go after the game subscription services that lock games behind a paywall. No one. Nobody does this. Nintendo Online, they don't have full backwards compatibility. They have paid subscription services for all the games, right? And the biggest one, and nobody talks about this except me, Apple Arcade. You cannot buy games unless they've changed something very recently. You cannot buy games that are in the Apple Arcade service. You have to pay to play them, right? So, like, a couple of years ago when Fantasian came out by Mistwalker, I thought, you know what? I don't want to subscribe to Apple Arcade. I'll just buy the game on the iOS store. So I went to the App Store. There was no option to buy it because you have to subscribe to their service to play these games. But what? These journalists that aren't doing the bloody job? They aren't going out there doing journalistic research and trying to figure out why do you have to subscribe to play these games instead of just buying them? No. These people aren't complaining about that. They complain about Game Pass, the scapegoat. And honestly, what's going to get more clicks in your article or your video? Game Pass is ruining the industry or Apple Arcade is ruining the industry? I think we both know the answer. You know, most of these gaming news outlets and like channels that do this stuff on a weekly basis, they rely on the clickbait. And you can't clickbait Apple Arcade. You just can't. And journalists these days, and there's a few good ones, gaming journalists, from what I see online, they don't do the job. They should be calling out Apple Arcade. They should be calling out Nintendo Online. But they don't. You know, they go after Microsoft for game preservation because they decided to come out with an Xbox Series X that didn't have a disc drive. But they didn't go over... They didn't go after PlayStation for having a digital-only console. Like, Microsoft, we people say Xbox tax is a thing. Whether that's true or not, we can all see that there's clear some bias, and Game Pass alone proves it. So, like, if any journalist listens to this, I would love to know, like, if they complain about Game Pass on a daily basis, can they tell me that they do not subscribe to any video, entertainment subscription service such as Netflix or Prime or Disney Plus? I bet they can't. They bloody can't. Just thought I'd bring that up because, this has been 2 weeks in a row now where the sustainability of Game Pass is constantly brought into question. It's just tiring. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? We'll quickly talk about this. Actually, no, this is an important topic. So, Indiana Jones in the Great Circle came out last year in December, I believe. And honestly, it absolutely blew me away. To me, it was my game of the year. And it's one of the 6 games I've ever given a 10 out of 10. Phenomenal experience. Troy Baker knocked it out of the bloody park. Literally perfect casting. And we did hear in 2024 that apparently Disney was very happy with the performance, not only sales-wise, but critically, that they want to see more of these. But this was in December. They were still putting out patches for the game. And honestly, I was fairly happy with that game. Couldn't be happier, actually. And it came out this past week that there's job vacancies over at Machine Games for what looks to be a Indiana Jones and the Great Circle sequel. Now, I lost my marbles when I saw this because, with them having a game format that clearly works, they have voice actors clearly trained to do this stuff, and they know how to do that stuff in the engine. So, like, to me, we could potentially see a sequel to this, literally this decade, right? We need more games like this. It's in a time where we're constantly getting bad gaming news. This was a shining beacon light of hope, man. Like, I absolutely loved that game. And, as a huge Wolfenstein fan, I might get hate for this. I've been saying that we need a new Wolfenstein game for years. But for me, personally, I will take more Indiana Jones games over Wolfenstein. As much as I'd like to see a new Wolfenstein, I would love another Indiana Jones game. And it looks like we're getting that. So, like, these job vacancies, they tend to be fairly real. And it looks like it's going to happen. Logan, what do you think? Because it was a big game when it launched this year and last year when it initially launched. But it didn't get its fair amount of attention when it launched because it missed the, Jeff Keighley's Game Awards cycle or whatever you want to call it. It looks like a sequel's coming.
Yeah, I'm excited. I thought Great Circle was one of the games of the year. It was brilliant. I if you didn't tell me who the voice actor was, I would have thought that was just Harrison Ford recording lines and doing the whole thing until I found out that wow, that was Troy Baker doing it. He sounds exactly like him and he nails the tone, the humor, like the way they design the whole world and the characters and the story and the gameplay mechanics, everything is just 100% to the page accurate for what Indiana Jones is about. And so it felt like the fourth movie we should have had, and I can't wait for the sequel. And I like you, I want another Wolfenstein as well. Like, why not both? Like, maybe like we hear, the rumblings that, some of the decisions being made for trimming some studios and stuff was to reallocate resources, manpower for, like a Fallout projects or some other stuff. Maybe shed some more, not shed, but maybe give some more resources to, machine games so that they could have a second team to where they can do both at the same time. Or make a bigger team to where they can get this one done faster. Because I love Indiana Jones and I enjoy Wolfenstein and I would like to have both. I think that there is a world where we can. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I mean, for me to give a game a 10 out of 10, like a 10 out of 10, by the way, for me isn't perfect, right? Every game I've gave a 10 out of 10, I could name a few flaws, but there's nothing that I could say that this really detracts from the experience. Red Dead Redemption 2, Mass Effect 2, Shocker to No One, The Witcher 3, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I gave it 10 out of 10 because it improved on everything I liked about the original and got rid of everything I didn't like. So I had to give it a 10. And Elden Ring. I mean, Elden Ring's open world is it's basically perfect. The world design, everything about it. And even though I didn't like how side quests are handled in that game, I had to give it a 10. And Indiana Jones, like for me, it's a first person shooter where 99% of that game you don't have to fire a gun. And I thought that was so well done because if you watch the Indiana Jones movies, Indiana Jones doesn't really use a gun that much. He's an archaeologist, basically. So, like, even though he did work, like, with some of the law, he did work with the CIA. But the truth is, like, he's not really, a marksman when it comes to guns and stuff. So, like, the fact that there's, 2 on-rail segments in that game with guns, like, I thought they handled it so well. And normally in a first-person shooter, where I'm not firing a gun, I kind of really want to. But in this, I didn't want to. I wanted to use the whip and all that stuff. Maybe hit someone over the head with a shovel in the game, right? And they did it so well. And, like, obviously, I think, the expansion coming out this year, it's going to be great. And it's just a win for people because we haven't had a AAA Indiana Jones game, if we could call it an Indiana Jones game, that's AAA, since the original Xbox with, I think it was called The Emperor's Tomb or something like that. And yeah, it's backwards compatible, by the way, if you have the disc or if you got it on Xbox Live Gold years ago. But, like, we haven't had a modern Indiana Jones game in so long, and for me, it actually changed up how action adventures could be. Because, like, for me, the best action adventure game was Rise of the Tomb Raider. I loved the world design, the Metroidvania elements, everything about it. I love that game.
Mm-hmm.
But all of these, like, third-person action adventure games, they can be, I don't want to say formulaic, but they kind of are. But this game, it had immersive sim elements. It used physics in a really cool way. And the fact that it didn't have this huge open world, which I really liked, and it wasn't linear, which I really liked. It was sort of somewhere in between where you had these multiple locations, extremely detailed. The Vatican, my God, whoever designed the Vatican in that game deserved an award. Like that
Oh,
has
it was incredible.
Yeah, incredible. Like you feel like you're walking around the Vatican, and it's kind of like this interconnected maze, even though it's a building that feels real. Like, however they did it, it's so smart. The Egypt level, great. The Himalayas mission, great. Like, I can't really pick much fault with it, but like, get Troy Baker. And by the way, if Disney or anyone are making a Han Solo game, you get Troy Baker. Like, that seems like such an obvious thing they need to do for a Han Solo game, which I would bloody love a Han Solo game. But yeah, I mean, this is good news. What can I say? And now I do think we'll be waiting a little bit. I don't think we might be waiting 5 years for it, but I think it could be a 20, and I'm being generous, 2028 title. I hope I'm off by 2 years. I hope it's like 2028, 6 or something, because I want that now. But Logan, when do you think that'll come out? Because, they're probably just starting it right now.
I think it's going to be a hot minute before we see it, to be honest. But especially, but for good reason. Because Disney, if you got Disney on board and they really like it and they enjoy it, and let's be honest, the last Indiana Jones films haven't exactly moved the needle in a positive direction for the brand or for the IP, and this game has. So let them cook. Like, they've seen what Spider-Man has done, the games, for the popularity of the character, what they expect Wolverine to do for that franchise. They believe in Arcane's work for Blade. So yeah, just let them cook, and I think they're going to make this one bigger in scale than the first one. So I think it's going to be a while. I hope I'm wrong, but I think 28 or 29 seems right to me.
Yeah, I mean, now that they know they have success with it, like you said, they can go bigger with it. More set pieces. I think the game would greatly like the set pieces in that game. You essentially have what, 3 kind of on-rail set pieces. Like, we could do with more of those. The third person elements in the game when you're climbing and stuff. Great. I'd love more of that stuff. And honestly, I think, and I'm surprised no one's mentioned this, I think that if you do a sequel to this, and considering that this game opened up with the scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think they should open up with the opening sequence from Temple of Doom. In, the restaurant in Shanghai, I think it is. If I'm not,
Oh yes, where the debt collectors
yeah,
are after him,
yeah.
and it goes absolutely nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they need to open up the game with that area where he has the poison and the diamond. Like, that will be triple S tier for me. I recently went through the Indiana Jones movies, and I just thought that's one of the coolest parts of the film. But yeah, Indiana Jones, we're getting more of it, and we're obviously going to see more of the expansion. I think we're probably going to see the expansion again at Jeff Keighley's show. Which, while I'm talking about it, that's where we're going to get Call of Duty Black Ops 7 gameplay. So it's probably going to be campaign footage. Activision tends to hold back a bit when it comes to multiplayer, closer towards the launch, which I completely get. But yeah, that's Indiana Jones. And you know what? We'll go over this quickly because I was telling Logan this before we actually started the show. So if you listen to this, there's a pretty big chance that you're an Xbox fan. Maybe you subscribe to Game Pass, and maybe you like to use your Microsoft rewards to pay for your Game Pass. Excuse me. There's this kind of widespread issue going around at the minute, and nobody's talking about it because I think a lot of people haven't noticed. So, if you subscribe to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and you open the Xbox app on your mobile phone, it will tell you a bunch of different things you can do each day to earn points. Play a game on PC, play a game on Xbox, play a game on Xbox that's in Game Pass, I think it's the dual game, and open the app every single day. But if you scroll down, there's Xbox Game Pass weekly streaks and Xbox Game Pass monthly streaks. There's a bug going around at the minute where they are locked off, so even if you subscribe to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, there's a little lock icon next to a lot of them, meaning that you're doing these actions every day and you're not getting any of your points. And it only just occurred to me today that I haven't received any of my points for the past few days. So I looked online, a bunch of other people are having the issues. So if you open your Xbox app right now, go to the rewards page and look at your activities for stuff, you'll notice there might be a bunch of lock icons next to the things you should have earned. So in about 5 minutes time, I'm going to put this tweet out there. Signal boost the living hell out of this, because Microsoft, I've learned over the past week, they really do listen to these signal boost and Xbox problem posts I've made in the past. And the Xbox Game Pass team, I'm sure they'll get on it straight away, because if you like buying your Game Pass with rewards points, or maybe you just like saving them for a cool game or piece of hardware, you're literally missing out on hundreds of points a week while this problem's going on. So again, I'll put this post out in about 5 minutes. Just want to signal boost it out there, because again, it's a cool way to pay for your Game Pass and buy games. Anyway, that's Microsoft Game Pass issues on the app. Hope people pay attention to it, because again, I only just noticed today and I could have completely missed it. Logan, have you got anything else to say before we close out the show?
No, that seems to cover it for this week. Overall, pretty positive, and looking forward to seeing what next week brings.
Yeah, we actually have a few topics all ready to go for next week. We started the show today with 17 topics. Let me check. 18 topics. Have to push a few of them to next week. And next week it will make even more sense why. But until then, we're back the same time next week. Hope everyone enjoyed today's show. For some reason, YouTube's been having issues today. So if you're joining the show late, that's why. Hopefully things will be fixed by the next episode. I'm going to try and get a video out in the next few days. If you're a fan of Xbox and games that came out this year, you might be interested. I've got a bunch of new content coming soon. Hope people enjoy it and support it. It's greatly appreciated. And, it's all free. Anyway, we'll be back the same time next week. Like I said, video this week. Hope everyone has a good day. We're out, everybody. Peace.